Hello, this is Warlord. We're going to take a look at using existing assets to create another asset. So let's go ahead and get started so I can show you what I mean. In this case, I'm going to be using my mothership asset. So we're going to load the mothership and also the HAC, or heavy assault carrier. So we're loading those two. I'm going to go ahead and highlight the mothership. And this way we can see what's going on. Raise that out of the way. Now I already know from trial and error how I'm going to resize these. And I'm going to make an enterprise looking ship, Starship Enterprise ship, out of these two props and a primitive. But what we've got to do first is resize them. So I know from having done this before that I want this particular saucer to only be 19.3%. So I'm going to go ahead and set it. And now we're going to select the carrier. And the carrier comes in a couple of parts here. We have some carrier engines that we want to detach. And now those engines, we have a specific scale for them. And that is going to be 640.4. Now you can vary on these scales, and don't worry when something disappears like that. It just scaled out of your view is all that happens. 188.5 and 277.3. And now, like I said, all it did was just resize. Now we're going to go to the carrier, and we're going to set the scale for it. I want that to be 104.3, 167.9, and 106.1. Now we're ready to start assembling these. Now let's go ahead with the carrier selected, and let's rotate it 180 degrees. Move it down, up, and then we want to center it to the saucer. Something like that. Now we'll move the engines in place. And you're starting to get into the idea of how we're getting the shape. Probably somewhere in there. And now we're going to tie these pieces together with a primitive. And what I used was the arc. And that's at 466.5. 940.5. I arrived at these by just stretching them with the gizmos. 128.8. Okay. Now we want to swing her around 90 degrees. And just move it into place, whatever your preference is. All we're trying to do is tie the bodies together where there's no gaps. This is just my way of doing it. You may have a different way. Okay, and that kind of ties it all together. Now we can deal with the texturing. And what I'm going to do with that, this is going to be really simple. We're just going to pull the texturing off the saucer and use it to texture the other items. You can texture whichever items you want. or use whatever texture you desire. Now you'll notice this texture here is a lot larger on our primitive. Well, that can be solved fairly simply. Again, this is personal preference, but you can tile it. And now we're ready to go ahead and group it, or go ahead and attach it. Now here's one thing about attaching. If you have subgroups and you just grab all these, like this is a subgroup versus just a single prop. So we grab all three of these. And if we just come over here and attach them, just what I call brute force, well, we're going to lose those groupings. I'll show you what I mean. Grab the mothership. You'll notice they're all just listed under it. It's just, there's no groupings at all. Now what I did was just undo to restore it. If we want to maintain these groupings, we have to attach one at a time. And you just see that maintains the integrity of the group. And of course, if you had several individual items, you could select all those at once and attach them. But now we have one item, and when we save this item, it'll be saved as one item. But this was how I threw together something that looks sort of like a Starship Enterprise that could be used for a poster. Now, if you've never saved a prop, it's very simple. What you would do is just go to your custom tab on your props, go to whatever folder you want to save it into, select that prop, and then just hit the plus tab. And then here's our prop. You can name it whatever you want.